Bricks make your way to the stage. Let's give it up to them. So I think a lot of times we kind of glorify the struggle, right? We glorify what we've been through, and a lot of times we sit in that and we don't even get to the strategy. So this conversation is meant to share you all's individuals' journeys and talk about the struggle to the strategy. So before we get started, we'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves, and then we'll deep dive into this afternoon's conversation. So Bricks, I'll toss it to you first.
Good afternoon. My name is Bricks Glover. About 12 years ago, I lost 160 pounds. I survived obesity, I survived suicidal ideations, and now I am a mind and body performance coach. I am someone who helps people design their identities.
So greetings everybody, my name is Terrence. I'm very happy to see you all. I moved away from the 757 about 8 years ago. And so I'm very happy to be here today to see you all because this is my home. I've been living in Philadelphia so that I could show creatives and entrepreneurs like myself how to monetize with digital tools and also stay connected and committed to the communities that impact them the most. So thank you all.
Wow. So when I think about that question, and I'll say this real quickly, when we talk about normalizing the struggle, we get into that loop of being a professional victim. Sometimes the pain and the struggle feels good because there's a necessity to require a level of attention, and the spotlight is on me. But what I've learned in some of these instances that sometimes you gotta go within and really understand the why. Why am I glorifying this struggle? Because if you don't understand the why, then you'll find yourself coveting those who are successful, envious of those who are successful. I call them the stray cats. Next question. What does living intentional actually look like day to day? What does living intentional actually look like?
Let's do this. So, living intentional for me, and I've just now been applying this recently. How many of y'all have heard about being present? I just want to see y'all hands. Okay, so we in alignment right now. I used to focus so much on what I've been through and how much shame and guilt I had, especially just from the adverse beginnings, like you mentioned, just needing to survive my environment and the decisions I need to make. And then I used to get really, really overwhelmed about the future. Like, how am I gonna get things done? Who's gonna help me? Will anybody help me? But recently, I've been learning how to practice being present. And what that looks like to me is moving away from desire and moving away from procrastination and using every moment to be intentionally present, accepting that there's something for me to learn and there's also something for me to provide in every moment. So that's what I would say, is being present.
Yeah, I love that. I want to piggyback on that. So, two things, 2 words come to mind. Stillness, which is connected, it's the cousin of presence.
Yes, indeed.
Right? And structure. There's not a day that I do not give myself at least 20 minutes to sit and be with my thoughts, to experience my mind. And then I set an intention for the day, right? It's quite literal. You want to be intentional, you have to give yourself the space to set intentions. And I want to give you guys something practical. I meet too many young black people, just people in general, who don't operate with a calendar. So if we're talking about being intentional, organize your day. Don't let your day control you. Block your time. Set a goal for the day and figure out what the structure is to achieve that goal.
Boot camp in here, both of you all mentioned something that it sounds so simple, right? But in practice, it can probably be one of the hardest things, being present and being still. what are some things that even got you to these points? Because I think sometimes when you talk about being present, being still, you have to really know yourself. And it is scary to sit with those thoughts about yourself, and that's the foundation to even get to the point of making a calendar, get to the point of overcoming and losing 100+ pounds. So what got you to the point to even acknowledge and being self-reflective, to become self-aware in these moments?
I'll start off. So when I left Virginia, I started a media platform called Newports and News in order to just honor the city. And I had a commercial space that I was running. I had a business partner who I was dating. Don't ever do that. And long story short, I started recognizing a lot of the inconvenience that I was causing myself, to her, the people around me. And I started looking at my future and realizing that I wanted to make a change. Like, I wanted to be different. And so a lot of what I would suggest and what I was telling myself in that moment to actually navigate that is being honest with myself about this not being the impact I want to have on the people who I love around me. I don't want my potential wife, I don't want my children to be incumbent because I'm not living a life that's consistent with who I'd like to be, how I'd like to show up, and who I have to serve. So that's where I started, just taking a moment to self-reflect, look at the people around me and say, is this how I want to keep treating everybody? Is this how I want to treat myself? Is this how I want to continue to show up? And then from there, I seeked out help. I got therapy. I started shifting my friend groups. Like the brother said, I changed my search bar. You know what I mean? And started really just reorganizing. I started using a calendar. That's why when he said that, I said, because I wasn't using a calendar 3 or 4 years ago. I was just waking up and allowing the day to determine where I was going to go.
No, that's a great question. I think for me, I started journaling. And what I noticed when I started journaling is I was repeating a lot of the same mistakes over and over again, right? My life was living on a loop. And I thought to myself, okay, how can I stop self-sabotaging? And in order for me to implement, a breaking of that cycle, I had to learn what was happening in my mind. I had to understand my emotions, right? We heard emotional intelligence. I had to learn how to regulate my emotions. So when I searched how to regulate my emotions, I always came upon meditation, right? Stillness. And I just experimented with it. I started with 3 minutes a day. I prioritized being consistent. 3 minutes a day. I did that consistently for 90 days, and then I went up to 7 minutes a day. And now I've been meditating every day for about 12 years, and it changed my life. So that was my journey.
Wow, let's give him a hand clap for that. Outstanding. That's a very powerful perspective. You both have shared some unique perspectives, and I agree with them in totality, 100%. But what I've also learned is that through my journey, I had to change my diet.
That part.
And when I say not only what I eat, but what I consumed in my subconscious and my conscious mind, what was being programmed in me, because I would go out, I was 245 pounds at one time, and I would go out and do all those things, but there was something missing. And the only reason why I understood that because I knew myself. Because whatever bothered me didn't necessarily mean it was applicable to someone else. And so there were some great lessons learned there.
Talk about, as we kind of, pull this conversation together, the difference between ambition and strategy. I think a lot of us are like, oh, I'm very ambitious. I'm very passionate about what I want to do. That is not a strategy. Like, there is a difference, and I think that's why a lot of times we aren't reaching our goals or aren't accomplishing the things that we want to do because we think our passion for something is the way to get there. So talk about how you notice the difference between ambition and strategy and what each of you are doing to actually create a strategy for your ambition.
Here's a bar. Ambition is the engine. Strategy is the GPS. If you don't know where you're going, all of the energy, all of the motivation, all of the dreams mean nothing. You have to apply strategy. You have to leverage creativity. You have to be intentional if you want to bring these things to fruition. So again, the ambition is the engine, the strategy is the GPS.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm happy you said it like that, because discipline, that's the difference between ambition and strategy. You gotta have some discipline.
That's good.
Discipline. I shifted from being solely ambitious. I was gonna leave the hood and I'm gonna go to Philly and I'm gonna build my business and everyone's gonna love the things that I provide. And then I shifted that into aspiration. Who am I becoming? Who would I like to become? How would I like to be remembered? What impact do I want to have on people's lives? So discipline is how I distinguish the difference, right? What are the routines, the habits, the consistency that I'd like to see in my life, and then how that aligns with the person that I'd like to become.
I want to piggyback on that real quick. So I mentioned when I introduced myself that I help people design their identities. Identity design is a real thing. Everything is a manifestation of who you think you are. You can design your identity. If you don't like the outcomes that your life is producing, you start that by changing the way you think. And I want you to know that our brains are very pliable, right? There's a term called neuroplasticity that you should familiarize yourself with. The whole concept of you can't teach an old dog new tricks is not true. I don't care if you're 40, 50, 60 years old, you can learn to think different, and when you think different, you create a different reality.
Be transformed. Starts with your first community between your ears. Your mind.
When you all think about moving forward in the future of what we're in right now, for the audience, what kind of advice or critique or positivity, encouraging word can you give to start shifting that mindset? Because the whole conversation, the whole theme of today is about your mindset and how it matters, and it's the foundation for everything. So what advice can you give the audience to help shift their mindset to get out of that, survival mode and get into that strategic mode?
I would say, and this is a word that I'm intentionally repeating, or a term, emotional awareness, emotional regulation. Start to gather tools that will help you understand yourself emotionally, mentally, right? I'm a big advocate for journaling. I'm a big advocate for meditation. I'm a big advocate for breathing intentionally. Breath work is such a powerful tool. You can regulate your nervous system. You can shift your state with some powerful breaths, right? So when I think about shifting from survival mode, shifting out of survival mode, is understanding it's a mechanism of your state, your nervous system, and there's so much science behind that. So understanding yourself emotionally, shifting from being reactive to learning how to respond to life. And that starts with giving yourself some space and taking some deep breaths in a moment.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, knowledge is self at the root, right? Everybody here should invest in knowing what knowledge of self is, but I feel like the sentiment was echoed here fantastically. Family, that's the journey that I'm on right now. And also being intentional about deploying what we're learning into our families. Like, that's where it starts, is at the crib, in our families, and then we can start building community. But I don't want your kid to come to my crib if you didn't teach your kid how to have knowledge of self and be disciplined about how they showing up. You know what I'm saying? So let's start with self, gaining knowledge of self, developing the families that we'd like to be a part of and show up as, and then we can start integrating that into the communities that we live in and start living life to the fullest, man. All right.
Outstanding.
We need to wrap with a meditation.
Yeah.
Level set. Brick's gonna lead us in some breath work. Okay, everybody close your eyes.
No, seriously, I want to share a powerful breathing technique. It's called a 4-7-8 breathing count. Whenever I feel triggered, whenever I feel just off, it's 4 seconds in through the nose. You hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then you exhale slowly for 8 seconds. We're gonna just do one round, All right, so I'm gonna count it down from 3. You're gonna inhale through the nose, all right? 3, 2, 1, in through the nose. 4, 3, 2, hold. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then pause. Just pause for a second. Observe any sensations that you may feel. Your heart rate, just observe it. Just be present right now for just 5 more seconds. And doing this, when you're feeling big emotions, can be the difference between a case and a conversation. That's a fact.
Outstanding, outstanding. Let's give our panelists a hand. This is outstanding, mind, body, and soul. I really appreciate you gentlemen coming here and sharing your insight. And we're getting ready to take a break. But before we take this 5-minute break, we want to make sure that you look at these tracks around here with these QR codes to ensure if you're interested in supporting